Morning, guys. My boy Krause heard some interesting stuff from the Metapod podcast this morning, and he's going to talk about it. What you got for me, Krause?
So, a couple things. I help run the store, right? I help in some of the decisions that we make for like the business side of running a card shop. There's a couple things that they just feel greasy. I think that's the best way to put it. I'm not sure if you guys are aware or not, but right now there's three big companies in like the third-party slab world. You've got, of course, you've got the grading companies, but the kind of gold standard there is PSA. And then you've got probably the number one place to offload those slabs is eBay. And then one of the best places, just generally nationwide, I would love to be nationwide, but we're not, is then GameStop, right? And so there's a couple things that are happening that just kind of feel, I don't think there's anything wrong. It just feels weird. First of all, PSA has started to do two separate things with their slab. I've got some nice cards from Brilliant Stars here. I'm gonna go through. There's the nice alt art. There's the full arts. There's once again some alts. Some good looking cards. I'm gonna go through these. I'm gonna check them for grading, and of course we'll send them to PSA because, as I said, they're the gold standard. When we send these in and they receive them, we'll get an email that says, "Do you want to commit to selling these to PSA right now before they're graded?" Because if you do, you'll get fast-tracked on the grading, okay? Pause. What happens next? If I say no, then it goes back to I think it's 65 business days, which is 13 weeks, which is right around, 13 divided by 4 1/3 is 3 months. So that means I won't see them till February. If they're fast-tracked, they're probably done in 10 business days, which then I get the cash in about 12 business days. Now, if I decide to commit to sell these to PSA, do they have a different group of graders that grade them? Is it the same group of graders? Don't know, right? Because we don't have a spotlight there. There's not a ton of transparency. That's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but here's where it could get a little weird is, do they grade all these as 10s regardless because they know they're gonna own them? If PSA has their own cards, there seems to be a kind of smoke, stink, greasy thing where there's a conflict of interest that if I commit to selling these cards to PSA, do they just value them at 10? They cut me a check at 80% or 85% of market or whatever they derive market to be. And I'm happy because I just offloaded, a bunch of singles and I got PSA 10 values for them. And then they got inventory. As a business, if I could figure out how to do that with my customers where I just take your cards in and I knew that they were going to be PSA 10s, I would want as many of those as I could at 80%. In fact, that's right on top of our trade-in number. Here's the second thing though, because there's not a ton of transparency that we're aware of, do they hit me at PSA 7 market values? And because I don't know what the cert is and I don't know where because of the volume, but they actually grade them as a PSA 10. That's super nefarious. And as I was texting Jack this morning, it's like, hey, there's a higher likelihood that you get caught here or something stinky happens that becomes a problem if you do this. But there's nothing saying you can't, because once this card, this Galarian Zapdos V, which I submitted, goes into PSA, there's only like 1 or 2 or 3 people that know that this is my card. If it then gets marked PSA, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to figure out what cert it is. Am I just guessing 121,400,000? I don't know. I don't know if it's a 7. I don't know if it's an 8 or 9 or a 10, right? If somebody knew just by looking at the card that it was gonna PSA 10, then that person's probably a millionaire in the industry. So that just like crosses a little bit of a line for me. Okay, so that's number one. Once again, you can commit your cards to PSA purchasing them prior to them being graded, which then fast tracks your card, which then brings in my head, a conflict of interest that allows PSA to grade the card to the maximum grade to increase their own value. And there's even a branch off there, which is they could tell you that they graded it lower to pay out less cash, and then still grade it at the high value and keep all of that margin for themselves. So that's the first part. The second part is, after I get these graded in February, I'm gonna get an email from PSA that says, do you wanna sell these to PSA? And I think, it's been occurring for a while. Looking at what price charting or eBay last sold or 130 point or alt says a slab is worth, it feels like PSA is paying somewhere between 75 to 85% of the current market value. So then my question is, what the hell is PSA doing with their own product? And there's also a conflict of interest there that if they end up buying the majority of PSA 9s and 8s of cards, because most people are going to want to have the 10 because the difference between raw and 10 is so large, and usually 9s and 8s is not. So to get rid of your bulk slabs, you would go ahead and accept the offer from PSA. What are they doing with all those slabs? So once again, this was on the Metapod. They made my brain explode. I went to eBay to look at the PSA vault on eBay, where it's a service that eBay has that you can send your slab to a holding place so that when it sells, it can be authenticated and then sent to the end user. There's a bunch of bulk slabs there. So then I'm like, okay, well, I guess they realize nobody wants it, and they don't want PSA anything but a PSA 9 and lower. They don't want those just completely devaluing. So they're propping up their own value. I get that a little bit, I guess. The challenge is that the company that's grading is setting the floor as to what a slab is worth. Feels a little, once again, conflict of interest. Like, Jack, if you were doing this on Facebook Marketplace, I would be like, man, I don't know if that's not a generally accepted business practice where you are selling a good, but then you're buying it back to make sure that the value doesn't go low. That feels corporate scandally. That feels like a Twitter expose is about to happen. Okay, so then enter GameStop. GameStop has a version of a blind bag, right? Where you don't know what you're getting, you open the bag and it can be a slab. And it can be a PSA 7 Shadowless Charizard worth $1 billion. And there's some value that they charge for it. Or it could be a PSA 7 Gold Galarian Zapdos that you immediately just want to throw on the ground, right? Because you lost money in the transaction. Well, where's GameStop getting all their slabs for that? And what's the value there? And where are they getting all of those slabs? Because if you've got this high value card and you want to charge $100 per entry, guys, you just go to your calculator and figure out current value of Moonbryon plus how many hundreds of dollars do you have to get to where you have a 1 in X shot of getting the Moonbryon, but instead you're getting a $100 card, right? And if you're buying all those at 80% or 75%, there's margin there. And so now you've got an opportunity to run a profitable blind box game. The difficulty now that I have on top of that is not only do they have those in store, they've got them digitally. So that means that you can go to GameStop.com and you can buy one digitally. And when you open it, they immediately will buy it back from you if you don't like it. So once again, they're setting the floor as to what their slab is worth. But on top of that, they're just recouping their inventory. So you spent $100 on this pack tear, and you get a $50 card, and they're going to pay you $45. Well, in your head as the consumer, the effective difference between what you bought is a $55 difference, right? You paid $100, you got $45 cash back from GameStop, so you paid $55 for it. Well, guess what you received? You didn't get anything. So they win in the end, right? And that's fine if you've got the inventory. That's a novel and interesting way to get rid of a large amount of slabs in a fun and enjoyable game. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, on a corporate backing with the support of the partnership between GameStop and PSA, and then the partnership between PSA and eBay, it feels like there's a rat in the woodpile here. It feels like there's something going on where values of slabs are being, the floor is being set by the company that is grading them. On top of that, there could be some nefariousness that's occurring as to what the 10s are. And I have two big fears. The first fear is that I'm accurate in this conspiracy theory and it's super shady and it hurts the hobby. It hurts it. PSA is the gold standard. If you have an encapsulated card, the only way for that card to be worth more than a PSA 10 is a Beckett Black Label. Not sometimes a CGC Pristine. But PSA is the gold standard. And Beckett's had some issues in the past. CGC had some issues in the past. Everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. This could greatly impact the graded card market if public perception is it's just a hyper-capitalistic game for PSA, GameStop, and eBay to make a bunch of money. And one thing I know generally about the United States is we don't have a problem with people that work hard and succeed. We love those stories. What we don't like as a culture is we don't like people that are clever. And so we don't like clever. This feels clever. This feels sneaky. This feels untoward and could end up potentially having huge push down on values of graded cards in the market, and could just really ruin the graded card market, which I think for some collectors is like their favorite part of the hobby. It just, like I said, I don't think anything's wrong. I'm not trying to put PSA or eBay or GameStop on blast. We use them. I use them. We're gonna grade upwards of 6,000 cards with PSA. We do business on eBay. We sell. We buy. I do business at GameStop. We got one local. We refer people over there. It's all of them. I'm not trying to do some hit piece here where I'm trying to expose something, but it just doesn't feel right.
Yep, so there we have it. So what do you think, guys? Here's what I think. I think you just tell all the grading companies, kick rocks, come grade with me. I'll give you all 11s.